Typically, I would say about 3 weeks is the total process. From when I first meet them to the ring is done. It could be longer if the ring is more complicated or if the piece doesn't have to be a ring.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Meet the Makers podcast. Today I am joined here. You may know him from doing some of the most beautiful custom jewelry that I have seen. He's also a fellow nerd and a part-time superhero. Today I am joined by Vincent from Arezzo Jewelers. Vincent, I am so excited to have you on here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Most people, I think, growing up, they want to be firefighters, they want to be doctors. How did you get into being a jeweler? That's pretty unique.
Family business. So I did grow up in it. My father did start it back in 1989. Him and a family member partnered up, started up, separated back in 2000. And I've been doing it since 2002.
Wow, okay. I love family businesses, so that's super unique to get to come into it that way. Now, when you were growing up and you saw your father in this line of work, was it something that was really natural for you to follow in his footsteps, or did you not really expect to get into it? How was that whole transition?
So I didn't expect to follow in his footsteps, but I believe he expected me to follow in his footsteps, so he did strongly encourage me growing up. I was always good at working with my hands. As a kid, I always built stuff, took stuff apart. I was one of those kids that took their toys apart and rebuilt them a different way. And I guess that came into my adulthood, doing what I do now. But the way my dad did things, he did things completely different than we do now. So it's actually a lot more fun to be in this industry now than it was during his time.
Interesting. Now, what about it would you say has changed since when you saw him doing it versus the modern day of it?
Technology. 3D printing was a game changer in our industry. People have been doing it for the past about 15 years. I started doing it about 10 years ago. But 3D printing was a big game changer in the industry. We went from doing our waxes that we make our master molds out of hand. Now I do them on the computer and I use a 3D printer.
That is absolutely wild to me. And I had no idea 3D printing was used in this application. I know you said that kind of maybe about 15 years ago was the timeline of when it got started. Would you say it's pretty commonplace nowadays for jewelers to work with?
It's industry standard now. And that was my introduction to 3D printing, was that. So to me, it was more just of a tool for work, a new thing I had to learn on top of everything else that I had to learn. But then I just started playing with it, making little trinkets here and there. I can't really do it on the printer I use for work because the material is so expensive. But I bought a 3D printer for home and just started going crazy from there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the 3D printer that you have for work? Because it sounds like it's really different from what we probably have and are used to in our home.
No, it's actually not at all. You'd be surprised. Actually, people like that bought one years ago are pretty frustrated now how far 3D printing has come. It's a resin 3D printer that I use, and the machine that I use, which is currently broken, it's from the company Envision Tech, which they started doing printers for dental, which crossed over. Basic jewelry and dentistry cross over a whole lot. Same tools, same everything, even with 3D printing and making molds of jewelry in their teeth. So they started making 3D printers for jewelers where the resin, you're able to, once it's done, and here, I have a piece right here to show you. Once it's done, it's the same thing as any resin printer that you use, but you're able to do a lost wax casting, so you could burn this out and make a piece of jewelry with it.
So if I'm understanding correctly, then essentially what the process is, you build these out in the 3D printer out of a wax substance, and then you go and fill it in after the fact with a metal to make the finished product? Is that how it works? Okay.
It's the simplest way, yes. So this comes out of the 3D printer, we clean it up, and then I make a mold of it. Inside the mold, it's a silicone mold. Again, you would do it for prop making the same way. But then we put the mold into an oven, about 12 to 1400 degrees, and we burn it out.
Wow.
And then the wax melts out, and then we have an empty cavity. But then we put it into a casting machine. I have a couple different kinds. We could get into that, and then it goes in there, and then whatever metal I want to go in, gold, silver, platinum, it gets thrown into the empty mold.
That is absolutely wild. I again never had any idea that's how it was done, or was a pretty common thing in the industry. Yeah. Now, as 3D printing technology has evolved, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the different resin printers on the market now, but Are you finding that as technology advances, it's becoming closer and closer to the machine that you initially started with in your business?
It surpassed.
Wow.
So I hate to admit it, I spent $16,000 on that machine 10 years ago. The Mars 3 Pro is better than my machine, and that machine costs $500-$600 now.
Yeah.
So the machine, the average standard for a higher end store is going to buy a $10,000 machine nowadays, but the Mars 3 and equivalent type of to that printer, you're getting the same results now.
I know a lot of people who I follow and are just hobbyists. They're not doing this full time, but they print on that machine. So
yeah,
they
it's just need to buy the right resin for it, and then they can make jewelry.
That is, my mind is actually blown right now.
This was on a Mars too.
It's quite a big ring. You're gonna need somebody with a big finger there.
Yeah. For clients that I do custom engagement rings for, the past year since I've had my resin machine, when I do a custom ring, I explain how I do the process the same way I explain it to you. And their finished ring, once I give them the finished ring, I make this for them to have as a prop.
Oh my God.
So they have a little model of their engagement ring to bring home.
That's super unique. Now, when you are walking people through this process of doing these custom rings, how long does that process typically start from like them coming in and having an idea of what they want to it finally being a finished product?
It could be anything. So yeah, typically I would say about 3 weeks is the total process. From when I first meet them to the ring is done. It could be longer if the ring is more complicated, or the piece. It doesn't have to be a ring. It could be anything. But they come in original appointment. I have a list of what they requested, the type of stone that they want, whether they want natural, lab grown, gemstone, the design, inspiration designs. They come in, see what I have, see how I work. I have a lot of samples that they could make custom jewelry right in front of them. And then once we figure something out, I shake their hand, they leave, and then I sit in my computer for a few hours and I design a ring for them or any piece that they want.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned something I wanted to back up on real quick. You talked about maybe they're coming in, they have an idea of what stone they want, be it lab grown or natural diamonds or gemstones. Can you talk us through the difference between what a lab grown versus a more traditional diamond?
Why, you interested?
Good salesman.
Lab growns and natural diamonds are the same thing. A lot of people are going to hate that I say that, but I'm a gemologist. I graduated from GIA, Gemological Institute of America, so I'm supposed to be biased towards natural diamonds, but lab growns, they're the same thing. The only difference is the journey to become the finished diamond is that they're done in a laboratory. The process is replicated and sped up, but it's the same thing. It's chemically equivalent to a diamond, so it's just as good. So save your money.
For people when they're coming in and they're getting these custom builds done, how much are you helping them along in that process of designing, bringing that vision to life? Is it typically people come in with an idea, or are you more, would you say, like the artist behind bringing what the final creation is?
People come in with a sketch of what they want, and I give them the Mona Lisa.
I love that. Transitioning off of the side of what you do for customs, I know I've seen that you guys also carry some line of Marvel-inspired jewelry, which I just thought was so cool. With that said, do you ever see those two worlds blending together? Do you ever imagine yourself making something custom that falls a little more on that like nerdy side of things?
Yeah, I always hope for people to come in and ask me to do something super nerdy. Very rarely does, but because people don't want to overinvest in that kind of stuff, and custom does get a little expensive. But what you're referring to, if you're familiar, it's Pandora. Pandora, it's a very popular jewelry line here in America, around the world. So they have an entire Disney line, which includes Marvel, Star Wars, and all that. And I was like a big backer of all that. So it is cool. Unfortunately, there's nothing for men. I wish there was something for men in the Pandora line, but it's a charm bracelet with little characters on them. They're a lot of fun, but if you're familiar with the Pandora line, it's for that. There's another line that I do carry. I just don't have them in the store because it is the men's line. I'm actually wearing the ring.
Oh, very cool.
I wish it would focus. It's my men's line. They have the license to Marvel, so the owner of the company, he sent me a bunch of Ironman stuff. So this is the ring that he sent me. I wear it every single day. I just don't have it on display, but I do sell it. It's called Rock Love Jewelry. You can look them up on Instagram. It's very cool.
That's awesome. Now, you also, I've seen on your Instagram and your TikTok, you do, I don't know if cosplay would be the right word, but I see you dressing up in Tony Stark.
Cosplay is, yeah,
all kinds of
cosplay's the
stuff.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My little 3D printed arc reactor. It's just unplugged. Yeah, I wore this to C2E2 last week, came to Chicago. I used to do a lot more cosplay. I used to dress up as fully as Iron Man. I have a whole suit. There it is, working now. I made it out of EVA foam. That was also 10 years ago. 10 years ago was before kids, so I did a lot of fun stuff before kids. But yeah, I did Iron Man. I am working on a new suit. I don't think you would have seen anything because I don't post anything of it. I do have the full suit printed. I just have to paint it. That's going to be a project over the summer.
Gotcha. Now, for the suit, it sounds like different process that you went about building it the first time, the second time. Is there any things that you learned the first time in making that going into the second round of it, you're changing or modifying in your process for that?
The first time around, I did it out of EVA foam. So I used pepakura, if you're familiar with pepakura. It's basically origami. You're folding pieces of paper flat, and then you're shaping flat pieces into 3D objects. So that's how I did that. I wish that I had a 3D printer back then because I would have went all out that way. But no, the two don't relate. I learned a little bit with electronics, that's for sure. In my knowledge, soldering, electronics, wiring, resistors, all that. I learned that with my original Iron Man suit because my hands and my eyes and my chest lit up.
Okay.
But this time around, I'm using Arduinos. So I've come a long way since then. So I'm having a motorized helmet and all that good stuff. Animated lights.
That's
so that
cool.
is, I could say, what I've learned. But now, this time around, it's 3D printed. Definite learning curve.
It almost seems like a rite of passage in 3D printing where everybody goes through it, and I see so many different people do different variations of it, but it definitely seems like a long project. How long would you say, in terms of hours, you have into this project so far?
Oh my gosh, over 100, just in printing hours. Yeah, and I have probably only a third of it sanded, not even painted. So yeah, over 100 already, but that's trial and error. Because I do the PLA welding and all that good stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. Learning how to use Bondo. Never done that before.
Yeah, post-processing, it's a whole different beast on top of finishing your prints. I've never done anything as extensive as that, but I know for me, I've laid down prints that have taken a while, and I'm like, okay, we're through the rough part, but then you get into the sanding and, like you said, the Bondo, and it really can get pretty extensive for sure. Now, you mentioned that you have kids. I know you haven't had an Iron Man suit in a while, but do your kids all kind of get into cosplaying with you, and do they? Yeah,
right now they're into Harry
cool?
Potter.
Okay.
So we're big on that. Just took them to Universal, got them their wands, robes, everything. I brought my 7-year-old to C2E2. The first day I had her running around as Gryffindor.
Oh, that's super cute. You guys always look great when you guys come out together.
Thanks.
Yeah. So coming back to your business, one of the interesting things I noticed is way back you had posted that you guys had started accepting Bitcoin at the time. Is that correct?
We did for a little bit. I built the extra because I got into it just like everybody else. I didn't buy it. I ended up building a miner. Bitcoin miner instead. Okay. So I was having fun with that. I did do a few sales with Bitcoin, but I don't do it anymore. There's no chance. That would have hurt me. I did do a few small things though like that, but I don't have too many customers that would want to come and do that.
I was curious about that, of how many people would have been transacting in Bitcoin back then. I know for me, I hadn't gotten into it until much later, but I thought that was unique when I saw it, and I saw that you had been mining it at the time. What was that kind of like back then? That
was fun. It was like at the peak and the height of everything. I bought a bunch of graphics cards went to Micro Center, bought every graphics card that they had. Just sat it was just a hobby that I had. I built it. I like building things before I had a 3D printer, so I built a miner and put it together, and it worked. It worked fantastic. It definitely made money. And then it stopped, so it's actually sitting in the basement now because I can't use it anymore.
Now, okay, so you can't use it anymore. Do things like that? I think I've heard that you need to really increase the computing power as time goes on.
Yeah, so I did the graphics card once. So I was mining Ethereum, and Ethereum you cannot mine anymore.
Okay.
That's basically it. You just can't mine it anymore. They don't do it anymore. They changed to what's called proof of stake, which means you just have to have a lot of it.
Interesting. You were a pioneer to that back then. I think it's a little more standard now, but I know even a couple of years ago, I think it was seen as a pretty alternative method,
pretty radical thing. I still like it. I still follow it, but I don't like preach it.
Staying on that same note, getting away from traditional banking and with everything that has happened over the last couple of months in particular with the banking system, I know you guys also buy and sell gold.
Yeah.
Have you seen a surge in people having interest in that with everything happening right now?
Yeah, so the gold is at over $2,000 right now. Let me check, which is an all-time high. Yeah, $2,005 right now. When gold hits spikes this high, we usually once it gets past $1,900, a lot of people come and sell their old gold. So we do buy gold over the counter. Also, a lot of people come in and want gold coins and silver. Okay. So I always have them on hand. So I got a lot of gold coins, a lot of silver coins just in the safe for these times. So I buy them, like I have them from years ago. So we bought them when gold was a lot less. So it's nice to have. But yeah, we do see it when it's gold's high right now. So we're getting a lot of people. And speaking of nerd investments, I collect a lot of silver nerd stuff. Like I have, this is my favorite one. It's a 5-ounce Millennium Falcon.
Oh,
in silver.
wow.
My
Now, I've never
favorite
seen
piece.
something like that. Is that, I should have prefaced this by saying I consider myself a nerd, but I never have seen any of the Marvel movies, and I've also only seen one of the Star Wars movies, so I'm a little bit out of touch.
So which kind of nerd are you?
I like
What's
to
your nerd?
Of course, a 3D printing nerd. I
Yes.
am a nerd that dabbles in a little bit of everything. I think movies were the one thing that it escaped me. I never got super into movies, but I love science, I love history, I love really everything, except, not that I don't have an appreciation for it, but yeah, I've never seen any of the Marvel movies.
That's okay. You could start anytime. They're all on Disney Plus.
That's true.
I promise you'll like them.
With that said, are those, I know you had the Millennium Falcon, is that something that you guys carry in your shop or in your business?
I don't necessarily carry them. I have a lot of them under there, but I keep them for me. But if people want to buy them, I would sell them. Right now, they're mine.
That's good. That's cool. As you're doing these custom creations for people and you're designing it from the scratch, do you ever feel like you have a hard time parting with those as they walk out your door? Is it like a happy moment for you?
Both. Oh, yeah. No one realized that once I finish a ring, like there's a ring that I have. It's my favorite one. This is the big version of it. Every time I sell it, I have to make it again just so it's in my showcase because it's an original design of mine and it comes out perfect every time and I love it. And every time I sell it, I get so upset because then I'm gone. It's gone for a month. So yes, I do feel that way. But I guess like the biggest feeling I get, it's not necessarily the ring itself. It's more of like the person I'm selling it to. They trust me wholeheartedly with the whole process because everyone that comes in, they do the research, but they all say, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And they're all happy with the process that when I go through with them. And they're very happy, and it's a very important moment of their life. They're about to get engaged,
Yeah.
so I get to be a part of that. That's like the more exciting thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really special thing to get to be part of, and for possibly years or in some cases maybe the rest of their life, they're going to have this living piece of art from you on them, which is, I think, a really unique thing that maybe a lot of artists don't get to experience. So
That's what I say. I'm like, that's going to be on your finger the rest of your life. You're going to think of me. I made that for you. I get to say that to people. And I love that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think maybe would in some ways help parting with something that is so special that
It's
you put
bittersweet.
together. Yeah. Now, one of the things I saw, you had this ring, I think maybe you had designed it, and it had skulls on it, and it was really unique. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before. Do you get to do things like that often where it's like what I would consider like very unique, very custom?
Yes, I do. I love it. Actually, I would have showed it to you, but he picked it up today. I just repaired it for him. I had the finished ring. Awesome ring. It had 2 skulls on each side. It had a garnet stone, so it's a dark red stone in the middle and diamonds in the eyes of each skull. That was a cool ring. I do get to do a few of those a year because I do a lot of custom work for jewelry stores around Chicago.
Okay.
And one is a very eclectic studio, so I get to make some weirder pieces for them.
That's interesting. Now, you had said that it was in for repair. When you're doing kind of these more unique designs, do you ever run into situations with structural integrity? Do you have to be a little more mindful as you're designing these of how the wear and things like that are going to affect the design?
Yeah, so just like if you're ever modeling something for 3D printing, you have to think how it's going to be printed on the printer. I have to think of how it's going to be worn and how the stones are going to get set into there. The 3D model is going to look very ugly, but the finished piece is going to be proper because you usually overbuild certain areas or underbuild certain areas to accommodate, because there's shrinkage in the wax, and then or the hole's got to be small enough or big enough to fit a particular size, and the underneath of the ring gets hit a lot, so you have to make that a little bit thicker, heavier typically. So yeah, all that comes into consideration. But I do lifetime warranty for all my custom pieces, so as long as you bring it in, get it checked out, because anything could happen to the ring. So I'll always take care of them.
That's great. Yeah, I know for me, I'm always super hard on my stuff, and I always look back at my jewelry and it gets a little beat up. Would you say, is that one of the things you take into consideration when somebody's coming in for a more custom build? Maybe their lifestyle or just what they do in the day-to-day?
Very important part of it, yes. How rough are you with your hands? How often do you use your hands? What do you do for work? If you're a nurse, you're going to get a different ring than someone that just sits at their computer all day. Do you work out? Do you take your rings off when you work out? All that comes into consideration. A lot of people want these very petite, thin bands.
Yeah.
Those are very popular now, but they don't last the test of time.
Now, over the years of you doing this, have you seen big changes in what's popular? And do you have something that right now you would say is the hot style that people are leaning towards? Maybe those more petite rings?
The petites are actually starting to die out, thank goodness. Right now, it's solitaires, believe it or not. Solitaires are super popular, so nothing on the band, just the diamond itself. Otherwise, there's the design called the hidden halo. That one is very hot right now. Whereas the halo, if you're familiar with the halo coming on the outside, the diamond's pointing up. The hidden halo, the diamonds are the halo is underneath the center diamond, facing sideways, like this guy. So the diamonds are sideways, so when you look straight at it, you don't see it, but when you see them, they're on the side. So that's the most popular diamond design right now. So yeah, it's very cyclical. I'd say every 3 years it's a brand new design. And center stone shape changes every 3 years in popularity.
Is there something you consider the most timeless look, or something that's really classical for somebody who wants something that is, I guess, in the trend right now?
A round solitaire is as timeless as it gets. So a round diamond, yellow gold band with white gold prongs is the most classic ring you can get.
That makes sense. If I think in my head of a diamond ring, that's the image that pops into my head.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things I see occasionally now, and I think it's starting to become more popular with engagement rings, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe colored diamonds or gemstones or just more unique things. Are you starting to see more of that?
I'm actually, I love when people use gemstones in their engagement rings because it's very different. Diamonds are great. Diamonds are forever. Diamond, you can't really hurt them. You could hurt them, you could break them, but the gemstones there's no two gemstones that'll ever look alike if they're large enough. Diamonds eventually all blend together, even though they're brilliant, beautiful. Like gemstones, I wish more people wanted to use them in their engagement rings. I do have a collection of them. I also have empty rings, and I have gemstones right next to them. So to encourage people to try that out. But yeah, I do. There is starting. It's a very small uptick, but it is happening. And the people that do buy them, they're very big, gaudy rings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if social media has any sort of influence on that, but I started seeing it more and more of people going that route. And it seems like I'm one of the sub-hobbies that I have to nerd out about is houseplants, but something that I see a lot of people who are interested in that also be interested in is gemstones. Have you also had more of an interest in people just across the board interested in crystals, gems? It seems to be like a hot trend I'm seeing online recently.
That hasn't hit my market yet. That's a huge West Coast thing. When I go to California, that's huge over there. You're on the West Coast, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're California or whatnot, but when I go to LA and in San Francisco, there's gemstone stores, the crystal shops and all that. I see a lot of that. I don't see any of that here, and if I do see it, like a crystal shop here, it's not in a very prominent area, so it's just in a random plaza or whatnot. But I do see that could start to uptick. I don't see me jumping on that trend because that's just another thing that I have to buy and sell.
A big portion of your business is doing the custom rings for people. Do you try and stay narrow in what you do in the industry, or how do you manage like what you keep in your as inventory and what you decide not to dabble into? How does that kind of work for you?
Okay, it's a great question. I personally do a lot of the custom. That's just one of the things we offer. We're a full store. We're a full store here, and we also have a workshop too in the downtown Chicago area, where we do our where we actually do the fabrication and all of our repairs. So in the store here, I have a lot of jewelry collections, different designers. We specialize in gold, so like metal, like gold chains, heavy gold chains, specifically from Italy. Our store is called Arezzo Jewelers. We're named after the town in Tuscany, Italy, Arezzo, Italy, which is actually known as the gold capital of the world. Most of the gold manufacturing comes out of there. So we buy a lot of gold from there. We have forever. So that's where a lot of that comes from. Then we buy a lot of gemstone jewelry, a lot of diamond jewelry. It's very exclusive, so we try to pick everything here that you can't get anywhere else. The only common jewelry item that we carry here is the Pandora collection, which is very popular.
Gotcha. It's interesting to hear how you guys have your specific niche in the industry. Do you find, we've talked a little bit about social media trends and things like that. I know one of the things that I've seen recently is, particularly on TikTok, they started rolling out more features for businesses to promote different items that they have. Now, obviously, you guys are a lot more high ticket, but do you ever see yourself leaning more into things like that to promote the business?
Yes, I definitely try. TikTok, I'm really trying to push myself onto it. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or not. I'm trying to get myself onto it because I see how important it is. I do a lot of Instagram Reels and Facebook, and I tag my products in there. My website is directly connected to Facebook, Google, Instagram, so my products are always uploaded, so they're always on there. I'm able to link everything onto there. So it does help. I do make sales through Instagram.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one of those channels like Instagram and TikTok particularly. I always feel like for businesses who are selling to consumers, I think it's hard to track sometimes always how much of your effort is actually driving those sales, but it seems like just such a great platform for storytelling and brand awareness and things like that. So I'm excited to see over the next couple of years how brands are able to leverage that and just grow their business with it, because it seems like there's a lot of potential for that.
Same here. I'm trying to push myself to do more of it. Be like you. I want to be as popular as you on TikTok.
Yeah, hey, I'm new to it too. I just got into TikTok a couple months ago, and I consider myself like an introvert. So getting into doing social media was definitely a different thing for me. But it's been a great experience so far, and it's been a really fun journey, and especially in the nerd community. I don't know how much you engage with the 3D printing side of things, but it's just a great community of people.
I wouldn't have known that you were new to TikTok because you were all over my For You page before I started following you. So you seem like you were famous already.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, it's been a fun journey on there. And I think especially like I said, for businesses over the next couple of years, I think it's just going to have the potential to blow people up, which I'm excited about the possibilities of that for a lot of people.
What about you? How did you start 3D printing? When, I should say.
Yeah, so I've actually only been 3D printing for a couple months now, so I'm still getting into it and learning the ins and outs of it, but I had actually had a small houseplant shop at the time, and that was initially what I thought I was going to do with my 3D printers. I bought them to make houseplant pots, and the deeper and deeper I got into it, first of all, I realized very quickly how long it takes to make a pot on a 3D printer, which is way longer than I expected. I don't know how long it takes to make a ring, a little bit smaller, but that was one of the biggest things that shocked me right off the bat. It's like, okay, maybe this isn't as practical as I initially thought it was going to be, but fortunately, I ended up falling in love with it as a hobby, and although I don't use it for any purposes right now, I just really love it. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
My 3D printer, I used my EnvisionTech for the jewelry to make one little ring like this. It takes 9 hours. And on that old machine, 9 hours.
Wow.
Now, on the Mars, this would take 45 minutes. Like, this took 1 hour. That's how much things have changed. That's wild.
Yeah, it's technology, man, across the board. It just moves so fast these days. But particularly in 3D printing, I know even on the hobby side, I mean, seeing the Bamboo Labs come out and so many things, it seems like over the next couple of years, again, maybe what takes 45 minutes now and feels fast in a couple of years will be 4
Instant.
minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank goodness for Bamboo Labs, because not that I have one, but because they came out, it's making all like Reality, Prusa, they're making them change, making them update now. Technology has to get better because they exist.
Yeah, it's exciting to see different things just come into the marketplace like that, because like I got into it at a time where there was a lot of change, but it sounded like for many years things were stagnant and there wasn't a lot of innovation in the 3D printing space.
No.
It's cool to be part of it as all of this is happening.
There was innovation, but on the very, very high end part of it. Like now the consumer part is starting to take, people are starting to notice there's money there.
Now on the designing side, how long did it take you to get acclimated into being able to start with a vision and bring that to life for a project?
A full design will probably take me about 3 hours to do, up to about 10 hours on a very complicated one. It's hard to say now because I've done like literally tens of thousands of designs where I already have a lot of the bases set, so I fly into it and I go in. I like so much so I have like silver models of rings in my showcase where they could pop the head off, like stuff that I've made over the years. So a lot of the work is done already. In the beginning, it would take me a lot longer to do because I'd have to come up with something from scratch and make a new appointment with the customer to come and see what I've made, or email back and forth. Now most of my appointments, I could do it all in one appointment now. So it's pretty expedited now. I've been doing it for 10 years, so the system's in place. Yeah, I'd say a 1 hour appointment with the customer is more than enough. I'll know what they want. They'll know what the design I'm going to make for them, and I just make it. It's simple now. It sounds like it should be more complicated, but it's not.
Yeah, it's strangely simple and similar to is somebody who 3D prints. Like it sounds like something that is similar to a day-to-day workflow that I have. So it's cool to hear that. Before 3D printers were applicable in this space and design softwares like this, how was that done before this was like the commonplace method?
Hand carving waxes.
Oh my god.
So there was milling machines where the needle, it spins and carves the wax. That's the older way of doing the older version of 3D printing, but you're very limited. Like you had nice designs, but you were very limited. It was a bunch of basics designs you were able to do. Other than that, it was hand carving wax and then saving the mold. I have molds, the silicone molds from when I was a kid that we still use.
Wow.
Yeah, we the Dewey Decimal System downtown at our office over there with basically every ring we've ever made.
Interesting. So you have it sounds like a warehouse of these molds that you have?
It's not a warehouse. It's my workshop. It's my office / workshop where we do it all. And I just have a big giant, so like I bought an old card cabinet from a library.
Yeah.
And it's stacked up against the wall, floor to ceiling. There's about... There's 10,000 molds there.
Interesting. Now, have you ever had somebody, I hate to say, but lose a ring and come back to get one remolded or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
People lose a ring, yeah. I'm doing it for somebody right now that had their dad's bracelet bought 20-something years ago. I have to remake it. I still have the molds.
That absolutely blows my mind. Again, there's so many things that we've talked through that I had no idea that's how it works, but... So I guess in theory, somebody could come to you 20 years in the future and have the same thing recreated that they had back in the day. Wow.
If I made it for them, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's easier now if I made a CAD design for them.
Yeah.
It's easy. Yeah. It's much easier now because I can have a digital copy that's not going to disappear. And then they want to get a matching ring made to it. I just pop open the CAD and make a perfect match.
Yeah. Nowadays with the digital files, I guess it's probably less storage space that you have to have, less physical storage space.
Well, I need the molds. The molds are, that's how you make the finished product.
Gotcha.
But if like a customer lost something, it's like a contingency.
Okay. Wow. Again, had no idea that's how it happened. Now, okay, so in there you talked about you guys have potentially molds from when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You have kids yourself. Do they have interest in what you do? Do they have interest in jewelry?
They're 5 and 7, so they both say they want to be a jeweler when they grow up, but they're 5 and 7, so we'll say they also want to be Harry Potter too when they grow up.
Yes, yeah.
But they do come with me to work. I try to bring them here as much as possible. They love coming here. They clean. They help out. They greet customers
Oh, wow.
when they come in. So
I bet the customers love that too.
they love them.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen them on my Instagram. I put jewelry all over them.
Now, as a little kid, do they realize exactly like what, like how, I guess, spectacular the jewelry is, or to them has that just become a normal part of their life now?
I probably just a normal part of their life. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see it through their eyes, I guess. They see jewelry, but they'll go to my case and they have no problem reaching their hand in there, and I have to stop them because they look at it, it's just jewelry. What's the big deal? Oh, they cost, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Don't touch that. So they have no concept of value. They just like how it looks. My younger daughter hates necklaces, and it breaks my heart. She does not like wearing necklaces. And that's like my favorite thing for them to wear. Yeah, what a plot twist there. It's funny you say they don't realize it. I remember I was pretty young at the time. I don't know how old I was, but my uncle had bought me my first pair ever of like actual diamond earrings, and being young, I just thought like they were just earrings. I didn't think anything of it. I had actually gave them to my friend that I used to hand down all my stuff to. So my mom was very upset with me. I just given them away, thought nothing of it. So yeah, I can see how maybe your daughters could go into the case and not think anything of it. Exactly. So you got to grow into that appreciation.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Vincent, I feel like I learned so much talking to you today. I had no idea how any of this worked before hopping on here. So I really appreciate you talking us through your side of 3D printing and what it's evolving into, and how, I guess, unexpectedly similar it is to the hobbyist 3D printing space. With that said, can you tell people a little bit more about where to find you, where to search you out on the internet if they maybe want to get something custom built from you guys?
Sure. You could look me up on my personal Instagram, V for Vincent. It's v.for.vincent. That's my personal. Or you could, I run my works Instagram. That's Arezzo Jewelers, Arezo Jewelers. You could reach me on both of those. Check out my portfolio on both profiles. See the things that I've made, the people I've helped. And yeah, I'm happy to help. And if you ever want anything, I would be happy to make something for you.
Awesome. Maybe we'll have to work on a project together in the future. I'd love to have a custom piece for you. Beautiful work. So Vincent, thank you again so much for coming on today. It was great talking with you. Yeah,
my pleasure.
Of course. That is Meet the Makers, and we will see you guys next time.